Just got done hitting a squat session. Had 10 total sets at 60 reps. I'm going to show you my favorite exercises that I do to warm up before I squat, to either work on mobility or really just getting the body loose before I load up the bar. The best analogy that I can use is doing these exercises before I squat is like priming a boat. If you've ever been on the water or been in a boat, you can't just put it in there and crank it up and expect it to go. You got to go back to the back where the motor is, flip up the compartment, and you have that little bulb, and you prime it and squeeze it, and it shoots gas to the motors. That's what these exercises do. When I'm doing these, I'm trying to bring blood to my back, my hips, my legs, my knees, my ankles, and really circulate, get some oxygen to those joints, get some oxygen to my muscles. I can't tell you how many times have maybe a tweak somewhere, and when I'm warming up, it starts to feel a lot better because I'm bringing a lot of blood flow to that area. So here's a lot of the things that I do. I do what's called a traditional high bar Olympic stance squat. It's very high on my back, and my feet are usually very narrow with pointed out probably 20, 30 degrees with my feet. To do that, you got to have a lot of dorsiflexion, hip mobility, and knee flexion. For me, full depth is hammies on calves. I don't know who came up with the 90 degrees as depth, but it's not. So for me, I like to have hammies on calves or pretty close to it for it to consider a full range of motion squat. Here are some of the exercises that I do. Y'all just let me know. All right, y'all. First, just working on some dorsiflexion here on my ankles and some hip mobility. I like to hold this for 10 seconds each, and I like to push that left hip forward and kind of focus on some hips, 10 seconds each. I do these 2 times each leg, and I either do 1 set, sometimes 2. It really just depends on how tight I am that day or how I'm feeling. I like to do this first just to kind of get moving, kind of see how the lower body's feeling today, and go from there. Next, I like these static hip holds. The strongest part I like to focus on is a few inches below the hips and then a few inches below the torso. That's where the squat is made. That's usually the strongest people are the strongest right around the hip area. So really just working on these. I like to do static holds, 5 seconds. Sometimes I like to add a weight. I just put a kettlebell around my foot. Again, I usually do 2 sets, maybe 5 each leg, 5-second holds. These really help my hips a lot. Next, I do 3 sets of these before and after. One of my favorite quotes is from Louis Simmons, and it says, having a gym without having a reverse hyper is like having a house with no electricity. So, I mean, it's these right here tremendously help my upper and lower back. I do 3 sets before and after. It really just loosens my back up and primes everything up to get going. I like to do some dead hangs with some pull-ups just to really work the upper back. Again, these are just kind of decompressing that spine, getting some blood flow to that upper back because the bars are going to be sitting on it. I want to make sure it's nice and warmed up. I just don't want to go in there with a cold back. You know, a strong back is a strong person, so 99% of the time, people that have a real big back are going to have big squats and big benches. So I like to do, 2 sets of these, maybe 4 to 5 reps of pull-ups. I'm not really counting the static holds, just kind of whatever feels good. Next, we're really just going to do a bar warm-up right here. Either 10 to 20 reps of shoulder presses front, and then we're going to go behind the neck as well. Again, back to that upper back. I do a traditional high bar squat. That bar sits really high on my back. I want to make sure my upper back is nice and warm and ready to go. Working a little bit of mobility right here, not a lot, because we're going to be back squatting. Next is trunk strength. I think trunk strength is one of the most underrated things people talk about. Like having strong obliques, strong sides, strong core. It's very important. It supports that load, and the load's just not 100% on your legs, but it's supported through bracing and 360-degree bracing through your entire abdomen. So just a couple turns here to get loose, you know, nothing really too crazy. Next, I'm going to go into some RDLs. I usually do 10 right here, really warming the hamstrings and glutes up. Those are the biggest muscles of your body. There's no such thing as quad dominant, but there's just hamstring weak. Another Louis Simmons quote. I like to make sure my hamstrings and glutes are nice and warm to really be able to move that weight. Next, again, working on some of the dorsiflexion, making sure my weight's even balanced across all my feet. I'm not too on my toes, not too on my heels. Just getting nice and in there. Get in there nice and deep, like, if you know, you know. Working here again, just the bottom, having a real strong bottom position. Next, gonna go into some shoulder presses from the bottom position. I feel like this really helps my thoracic spine and keeping my chest up throughout the squat. I do, you know, 4 or 5 of these. Sometimes I'll do this 2 times. Sometimes I only do it 1. Usually by this point, I'm usually pretty warm. So it just really depends. Next, we're going into air squats. If you can't squat the bar with proper technique and proper form and proper depth, then you're going to have a short range of weight that you can only move. A lot of people say, you know, I can't hit depth unless I have weight on. Well, you're probably not doing it right. So I like to do a lot of air squats here. Sometimes I do 10. I very rarely do 20, usually 15. Again, just working on technique and making sure every rect's perfect. Next, go to 90s country. Load up the bar. Don't forget your Diet Mountain Dew Dale Earnhardt Jr. era. That's my warm-up. That's usually everything I do before I even load up the bar. If you think full range squats are bad for your knees, I'm sure there'll be some comments in here about, oh, it's going to hurt your knees. Full range of squat is bad for your knees. If that's true, then full range bicep curls must be bad for your elbows. So just my thoughts. Hope you have a good day.